Sonic the Hedgehog. This legendary roller coaster of a series has time and time again resurfaced to bring us different gaming experiences with each new entry. Whether it would be saving aliens from an interstellar amusement park, or even evading the military, we can always be certain that the blue blur will surprise us in cool and unique ways. I believe this is why the series is still holding strong to this very day. It isn't afraid to try anything new and different from the norm, even if it doesn't always work. Again, it doesn't always work. The franchise would not only go on to sell millions of copies, it would also help inspire, comfort, and shape that same amount of people. Young, old, and in between, Sonic has helped in some significant way. As for myself, I am proud to say that I am one of those people. Okay, I think we can pause the somber music for now. Hey there, and welcome to JG Entertainment System. For this year's Thanksgiving, at the time of this video being recorded, why don't we celebrate how thankful I am for the series by talking about the legendary game that started it all. Let's also see if it's still quite the thrilling experience. I'm talking about the one, the only, Sonic the Hedgehog. Wait, I meant this one. Before we begin talking about the game itself, why don't I give a brief history of its development and my first experiences with this game? Let's start with that history, shall we? In the late 80s, Sega was a monster when it came to the arcades. Games such as Alter Beast and Golden Axe cemented their legendary status as instant classics. They also helped Sega rake in a lot of quarters too. However, by 1990, when it came to the home market, they came nowhere near close to their rival company at the time, Nintendo. The Nintendo Entertainment System, or Famicom in Japan, was in a huge majority of homes worldwide, while the Sega Master System came nowhere near close. Hey, at least it was popular in Brazil! Their new console, the Sega Mega Drive, or Sega Genesis as it's known over here, wasn't even coming close either. Despite having near-arcade perfect ports, 16-bit graphics, and better sound, Sega was still missing something. A key part of their identity. A mascot that would represent the brand. Mario, Nintendo's mascot, was a smash hit worldwide. Not only were his games good, but also the character himself was popular with audiences. While Sega had Alex Kidd, they felt that he wasn't up to snuff when compared to the Red Italian Plumber. Sega needed someone new. Someone exciting. Someone that could challenge and possibly dethrone Mario. Enter programmer Yuji Naka and designer Naoto Oshima. Naka wanted his next game to be about speed, and Oshima was working on a concept where characters would go through loops, called Twin Stars. A character that is about speed and can run through loops? I think we might be getting somewhere with these neat ideas. Another designer, Hirokazu Yasuhara, added that the character should curl in a ball mid-air and should take advantage of the terrain around it. The mascot would also have to exude the feeling of being cool. So after some brainstorming, a new character was born, by throwing a hedgehog, Felix the cat, Santa Claus, the shoes from Michael Jackson's Bad album, the color blue, and 90s sensibilities all in a blender. Sonic the Hedgehog was born! When it came time to bring this blue buddy over to the West, Sega of America felt that some changes needed to be made so Sonic could also appeal to people living stateside. For one, what the heck is a hedgehog? You see, hedgehogs aren't a common animal in the US. They are very common in Japan, but still, this was a different animal that most Americans probably wouldn't know of or recognize. Also, Sega of Japan tried throwing in Sonic having a human girlfriend and also being part of a rock band. Madeline Schroeder, the project manager and mother of Sonic, basically Thanos snapped those out of existence and geared towards softening up his look. Naka, however, contradicts this by saying that these were only concepts. Honestly, I believe the former. Artist Greg Ray, not to be confused with Greg Martin, the designer of the US cover, would work on the redesigned Sonic for the West. Other changes were made, such as instead of Earth, the world would take place in Mobius, and Dr. Eggman, the villain of this adventure, would later be renamed Dr. Ivo Robotnik. Initially, Sega of Japan hated these changes, but would later go on to accept that these were necessary for Sonic to succeed. By June 23, 1991, Sonic the Hedgehog was released in the United States. Japan and European territories would see their copies hit the shelves in July of that same year. As for how I got exposed to this title, let me take you back to when I was a kid. It was the early 2000s. My very first Sonic game was in fact not the one this video's topic is on, but rather its sequel, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Growing up, both my biological father and my cousin each had their own Sega Genesis consoles. When going over to my cousin's, I would play Sonic 2 non-stop. And the one thing that made me fall in love with Sonic 2 was not only the characters and gameplay, but it was also the spin dash. That move was so sick to me as a kid. When he got Sonic 1, I tried it out. And what happened during my first time playing? I tried to do the spin dash, realized it didn't have that move, and then shut the game off and played Sonic 2. Again, I was just a kid. The spin dash must have been that important to me, I guess. But don't worry, we eventually got our own copy at home. I would usually make it as far as the 4th zone before getting a game over. Luckily, after many years, I was able to beat it and replay it every now and then. I then went on to appreciate the game for what it truly was. But, how do I view the game nowadays? Do I still have fun playing it? Why am I even thankful for this game to begin with? Well, before we truly dive in, there's just one more interesting thing before we boot up the console. And that is, the packaging. I gotta say, I love this art of Sonic. It's so freaking cool. You have that very cocky smirk. Then you have him wagging his finger as to show off that he really is cool. Ugh, those rings glimmering in the background with the loop-de-loop. Just marvelous. Now let's see what the back has to offer. It's Supersonic! Super speed! Bust the video game speed barrier wide open with Sonic the Hedgehog. Blaze by in a blur using the Supersonic spin attack. Loop the loop by defying gravity. Plummet down tunnels. Then dash to safety with Sonic's power sneakers. All at a frenzied pace. Super graphics! Help Sonic escape bubbling molten lava. Swim through turbulent waterfalls. Scale glistening green mountains. And soar past shimmering city lights. There's even a 360-degree rotating maze. You've never seen anything like it. Super attitude! Sonic has an attitude that just won't quit. He's flippin' funny, yet tough as nails as he fights to free his friends from evil. So just wait. Sonic may be the world's next superhero. One player! If you thought that was all of the 90s cheese, there's some sprinkled in the manual too. Sonic's super stunts. Zip through the zones. Limited warranty. There is even a scoring page for where you can write the date, your name, and the score you got after you beat the game. I might actually fill out a section for the heck of it. Alright, now it's finally time to boot up Sonic the Hedgehog. Hey, a game has to be that good if the company that made it chanted their name. Sonic Team presents. Whoa. Sonic just comes out from the emblem and gives us that cocky smirk. And that finger wag. God, that is so cool. Also, that title jingle slaps. Okay, let's hit the start button. The first zone we have is Green Hill. Wow, just look at this scenery. The clear blue sky, the mountains off in the distance, the glimmering of the water, and the flowers. Hey Sonic, why are you giving me that look? I'm just trying to get the viewers interested in this game. Gosh, the box wasn't kidding when it said you had a super attitude. Okay, now is a good time to explain how this game plays. The controls are super simple. You use the directional pad to move Sonic, and for jumping, you only use one button. Like I said, simple. Gosh, I wish life was like that. Like other games, you have a scoring system where you rack up points by beating enemies and collecting stuff. Then you have a level timer, which affects your bonus points, and if you somehow let it go up to 10 minutes, you get a time over and lose a life. Rings. They are basically the coins of this game, but they work a little bit differently. You know how games have a health bar? Well, how about the rings being the health bar? You see, aside from falling to your doom or being crushed, as long as Sonic holds on to rings upon getting hit, he won't die. Instead, you lose all of the rings you have accumulated and they scatter around. You have a small chance of getting a few of them back, but I won't lie and say that you won't feel soul crushed when all of those hard-earned rings fly out of your pockets. This system is really neat as it allows for the action to keep on going. Unlike most heroes where once they lose that power-up it's gone forever, Sonic has a slim chance of getting back on his feet to take another hit with this system. Along the way, Sonic will come across these TV monitors where if he smashes them, he acquires that item. Oh my god. $1 million inside a TV! I know just what to do!
No, 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 no!
Smashing a ring monitor will grant you 10 rings. Smash the Power Sneakers one, and Sonic flies around like he did drank a can of Coke. The shield one gives you a protective barrier, where upon getting hit with it, will protect your ring count. The Sonic monitor simply grants you an extra life. And lastly, the monitor with stars grants you invincibility. You get to be immune to enemy and environmental damage for a short period of time. Still can't protect you from being crushed or bottomless pits. And while not power-ups, there are springs that send you flying or backwards. There are also these lampposts, where touching them act as level checkpoints in case you lose a life. Now back to Green Hill. I have to say the first act is quite impressive. Sonic controls like a dream, and him building up speed feels so satisfying. There are quite a few slopes to help build up that momentum, and also going through a loop-de-loop fast enough just makes me feel so happy. It's so rewarding. The enemies you fight here are also pretty cool. My favorites are the crab meat and motobug enemies. I really like their designs. They are just so cute. Chopper and Neutron are cool as well. Screw the buzz bombs though. They're annoying, and you'll see why. The level theme that plays is also really good and catchy. I know that eventually this song would later become infamous for being overused, but then again, this piece originated from this game. There is a reason this specific song is referenced or used every now and then. It's iconic. It's the very first level. It's Sonic. Finishing Act 1, we spin Dr. Robotnik's sign to make it ours. However, if you happen to have at least 50 rings in hand, a giant ring will appear and you have a chance to jump in while hitting sweet spots for bonus points. Being transported to another dimension, here we now get to experience the hype of the 360 maze. The first thing that caught me off guard is the very strange background. The fish morph into birds and vice versa. It's so weird. Looking into this, it seems that the background was inspired by a small scene in Sony's Infinite Escher short film. That's pretty cool. Back to the maze itself, Sonic has to jump and bounce his way to get the ultimate prize, one of the 6 Chaos Emeralds. However, it won't be easy since the maze constantly rotates on its own. There are also bumpers that send you flying like crazy. The R buttons reverse the direction of the rotation every time they are hit. There are also buttons that increase and decrease the speed of the maze too. Then you have mints that you can bounce off of. Hey, they look like mints to me. Here is the true enemy of this area. Goal buttons. They will kick you out of the special stage empty-handed. Lastly, there are these breakable diamonds that protect the emerald and take a considerable amount of time to get through. Do these mystical emeralds play an important role in the story? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Before we get back to our adventure, I will say that overall, the special stages are meh. They aren't bad per se, and the atmosphere here is pretty good. But even after so many years of experience with them under my belt, they can still be pretty tricky and cumbersome. Sometimes it feels like that they are just random chance, given how many obstacles there are. Trust me when I say this, they can induce a lot of stress on even the most skilled Sonic players. I feel like my gut gets punched every time I hit the goal button and don't get the emerald. So infuriating. The second act of Green Hill keeps the ball rolling with its bigger slopes, optional secret areas to access if you're fast enough, and swinging platforms above pointy spikes. If you happen to play the original Genesis version, spikes are a lot more dangerous since unless you hit the ground after taking damage from them, you won't get any invincibility frames. So if you hit yet another bed of spikes after that, you'll just die. Luckily later releases fix that little oversight. Overall, this act is also a blast to play. Now enter the third act. These are important since at the end of each of them, you enter a boss fight with the evil Dr. Robotnik. So I guess I should catch you up on why we are on this speedy adventure to begin with. You see, Dr. Robotnik is imprisoning these cute little animals inside the very badniks that he is creating to take over South Island and rule the world. Hence why when we destroy these guys, little animals pop out and run freely. Sonic catches wind of this and is not tolerating any bullcrap, so he sets off to stop him. Oh no. Here he is! How is he going to square off against our spiky blue hero? Ow! So the egg-shaped scientist plans on smacking us with this wrecking ball. But no need to fear, 2 floating platforms are here! In all honesty, the first boss isn't all too difficult. But the boss theme and the overall method of attack just aid in it being so memorable. After 8 hits while avoiding the giant ball, we destroy the accursed contraption and free some more animals from a nearby capsule. I have to say, Green Hill was such a fun level. These acts showcase the true potential of Sonic and his gameplay. Can't wait to see how the other zones stack up to it. Wink wink. I never get tired of those first notes. I bet with a banger start to this theme, we are in for a banger level. So here we have Marble Zone. It's a desolate ruin that has been overtaken by forestation. It also happens to have boiling lava, spiky chandeliers, and some blocks we have to push to traverse this strange place. We even get to see some new baddies here, such as the infamous Caterkiller. These guys have a spiky body, and their only weakness is their heads. What can also be a nightmare about them is if you hit their bodies, their segments will scatter and can still hit you again if not careful. The other badnik is Batbrain. These guys swoop down quickly and can catch you off guard if you don't attack fast enough. I'll be honest here, while the music catches my attention, the environments here really aren't that interesting. I get that these are abandoned ruins, but nothing really sticks out. Okay, the murals and steel bar windows are kinda cool. I would also like to note that there is so much more stop and go platforming compared to what we saw in Green Hill. Act 2 is especially full of this, where Sonic has to push the green blocks to move across the flowing lava. At least seeing Sonic getting shot upward a burst of lava is exciting. It's definitely not as fun as running through loop-de-loops and caves, that's for sure. I know this is only the second level, and I'm not trying to sound too harsh, but this zone is such a stark contrast to what Green Hill has set up. That's why I'm not sounding too excited when talking about this level. To close off this area, we have the next Robotnik fight coming up. A boiling lava pit in the center of 2 brick platforms. What is his evil plan this time? This isn't a bad boss fight either. Just stay away from the platform he's about to ignite and smack him when he approaches. Admittedly, once you know the pattern, this boss really isn't too hard. It's short, sweet, and simple. After that, we then free up more animals. Overall, I will say that Marble Zone isn't a terrible level. Sure, it's not as fast-paced, but it has some interesting ideas with the blocks that you can push around. I just wish that speed was implemented more into the puzzle aspect and level design. Man, I really hope the next level is an improvement. Time for the third zone. Let's do this! Welcome to Springyard Zone. This place is really hard to piece together. We have an industrial city in the background. you have these weird set pieces, flashing lights. Then the background soon shows purple mountains. Cope. On. Up. CPU? I'm not sure what to make of it, but I like it. Spring Yard seems to be loosely inspired by pinball. You have a multitude of springs that launch you all around, along with bumpers that like to smack you willy-nilly. I use the term pinball loosely, simply due to the fact that there are no flippers. But the name, Spring Yard, makes a lot of sense since springs, both yellow and red, are scattered everywhere. What I really adore about this level is that there are a lot more instances where you can build up Sonic speed. There are plenty, and I mean plenty, of slopes and hills. There are also ramps you roll up on, which I failed for both of my playthroughs for footage. Curling into a ball is super fun, and it's also rewarding when you access the higher path or find a secret room and get bonus goodies. However, it's not all fun and games since there are plenty of hazards to deal with. Not only are there these spinning spike ball chains, we also have these giant sets of balls floating around too. I promise that I wasn't trying to sound all dirty while saying that. Don't forget that there are some new badniks that camp here too. There are rollers, which at first glance look like Sonic rolling, but when they stop, they reveal their true form. It looks odd, but don't let their looks fool you. These guys are a nightmare and literally come out of nowhere. And what can be annoying is it's hard to predict when they will uncurl. My advice is this: if you go down a huge slope, be on guard because that is usually where they are. Also, to save yourself the headache, when they speed down, jump behind them. They aren't worth taking on. We also have the most originally named badnik, Spikes. These critters on wheels can only be attacked by rolling into them. Jumping into them head on will result in losing your rings, so find a good spot and roll into them. My only complaint with Spring Yard is that there are sections where there are these floating blocks that Sonic has to go through, and because they are so close to each other, he can only move between them when there is an opening. The blocks themselves aren't the problem, you see. It's that Sonic Team thought it was a great idea to add buzz bombs that fly and shoot at you in these areas. This is where these guys get really annoying, by the way. 9 times out of 10, you will take damage simply because those pesky robots fly on screen when Sonic is wedged between the blocks, making their attacks pretty much unavoidable. So annoying! Getting to the end of Act 3, we see that we are standing above these strange stone blocks. And flying in comes Robotnik. Huh, that's weird. He doesn't seem to have a contraption. Is he taking us head on?
Penis!
Uh-oh, he's trying to skewer Sonic with a protruding spike. And to make things worse, every time he pokes the ground, the target block gets destroyed. Of course, this means that if Sonic falls off, he will lose a life. Luckily for us, every time Robotnik pokes into the ground, he is vulnerable for quite a bit. After the mad scientist was brought down yet again, we say see you later to Spring Yard Zone. I remember being indifferent to this level as a kid, but after playing it again, I had quite a bit of fun with it. This level is vastly underappreciated. Here we go, Labyrinth Zone. Before we get into it, I'm just going to come out and say it. This level is hated by many Sonic fans. Even fans of Sonic 1 will tell you that they hate this level. This very level has become a meme within the Sonic community. When gamers talk about how underwater levels are not fun, Labyrinth Zone is frequently brought up. Heck, Radical Soda made a diss track about this very same level, guys.
I just can't do this shit, I just can't play anymore. You claim your game is fast, but here I am on the floor.
This is the zone that always stopped me in my tracks as a kid. So after replaying it, let's see if this level is really that bad. I'll start with the positives first. The level theming and overall aesthetics are really cool. I love the stone faces and the designs of the ancient statue heads that spit fire. Even underwater, the area looks gorgeous. There's this beautiful green tint that surprisingly works and doesn't clash with the above water look. Also, this music. God, this music. Quick shout out to the game's composer, Masato Nakamura of Dreams Come True. He made this song so dang good. Even people that dislike this level will praise the song that accompanies it. In fact, all of this music is good, even for the other levels that come after Labyrinth Zone. Okay, let's actually talk about this level. It's an ancient temple that's filled with various booby traps like spears, chain spike balls, and the aforementioned statue heads. However, there is one trap that Sonic fears the most, and that is water. You see, even though Sonic is the fastest hedgehog ever, there are things that even he can't do. And that one thing is swimming. Underwater, Sonic moves very, very slowly. And that's not even the worst part. He can only breathe underwater for a short amount of time. You hear these little beeps to indicate how much airtime he has left. After 3 of them, a traumatizing jingle will play. And there are only 2 ways to stop it. Either get back to the surface for a quick breath, or get to an air pocket of bubbles and hope a big enough one spawns in for Sonic to breathe it in. I have to say, this mechanic is really interesting. It also raises the tension significantly and makes you think on your feet to hurry on through the underwater passageway before time is up. Getting through the level fast. Thank you. I'm here all video. Interesting mechanics aside, this level was hard for me as a kid because the physics underwater are vastly different compared to what I've been used to. It also doesn't help that the badniks of this area, the Burrowbot, Jaws, and the bane of my existence, the Orbinaut, either catch you off guard, or in the case of the Orbinaut, make you stop in your tracks, taking up precious airtime. Jaws just floats around. The Burrowbots, if you spot their drills, can be taken out if timed right. But the Orbinaut? Screw these guys. The red ones get angry and throw their orbs at you. Once the head is exposed, they are vulnerable. But some are placed in such a way that you have to stop, jump, and hope to God you don't get hit. These enemies are pace breakers, in a level where the pacing is already slow to begin with. Let's be real here. There is little to no sense of speed in this zone. The only ones I can list are in Act 3 where you slide down a water slide, and sometimes the water current will whisk Sonic away into a different part of the level. And unfortunately, the boss fight with Robotnik isn't very good. It has a neat idea. He flies to the top, and to catch him, Sonic has to hurry and climb up through the temple, all the while making sure that he doesn't drown from the water that will engulf him. Again, there is a neat idea. A gauntlet to get to the top. However, what do you get when you do reach the top? Robotnik just runs away. Yup. All that hard work for only nothing to happen. This boss could have been cool. Why not put a time limit to further raise the tension? Or make it an actual race against the Doctor himself? Or make an actual boss fight at the very end? Sorry, I kinda lost my cool there. What I truly mean to say is that this boss could have been something good. Heck, this whole zone had so much potential. It truly did. Why not add more water slides? Or slopes to help build speed to get the air bubbles faster? In conclusion, Labyrinth Zone, unfortunately, is my least favorite level in the game. There is barely any sense of speed to be had. The boss fight really sucked. And I think it's best I move on before I get any more heated. Whoa. Now this place looks pretty cool. This is Starlight Zone, a construction zone where you run through highways and zip past streetlights. Guys, this actually might be my favorite level within this whole game. Great music, great aesthetics, and guess what? Loop-de-loops, slopes, springs that send you flying. They are all back. This level is great. It definitely washes out Labyrinth Zone for me. No pun intended. We see the dreaded Orbinaut return, but this time with a green coat of paint. A key difference is the spike balls never leave their sides. So this enemy, unless you have invincibility frames, is essentially unbeatable and best avoided. I actually prefer these guys over the red variants due to the fact that they are much easier to avoid. Then you have the cleverly named bomb enemy, Bomb. They aren't the most creative in terms of naming convention, but like green Orbinauts, they can't be beaten by normal means. The only way for them to go away is by, well, letting them set off. They do scatter upon explosion, so be mindful of where you are and get the heck out of their way. Act 2 also introduces us to the seesaws housing mines sitting on one of their ends. Sonic can jump on the higher end, and the mine will launch to the other side. If Sonic happens to move to the other end before the mine hits, when it does land, Sonic will be launched into the air. Repeat this action consistently, and Sonic will be launched further up in the air. This is so cool as it can be used to access different optional areas, or sometimes necessary to progress through the stage. This also carries into probably my most favorite boss fight in this title. There are 3 seesaws on the screen, and Robotnik here plans on dropping mines on our blue hero. There is a twist though. Unlike the ones we were familiar with, these can explode if left unchecked, and he will constantly drop mines too. So what can you do? Well, there are actually 2 ways to deal with this situation. We can A, use the seesaws to launch ourselves in the air to hit Robotnik, or B, we can use the mines he drops against him with proper timing. This is cool because even though it's simple, it gives you multiple ways to deal with this threat. It also uses Sonic's physics in a cool way. I love Starlight Zone. This area, with every time I replay it, always manages to impress me. Not to keep ragging on Labyrinth Zone, but it's ironic how we go from what people consider to be one of the worst levels in the game to one of the best. We have one more zone to go, people. Let's go! Scrap Brain Zone. Dr. Robotnik's evil base. Guys, I won't beat around the bush here. This entire zone can be difficult if you're not careful enough. It is essentially Death Trap City. Fitting, since this is Dr. Robotnik's factory that we are infiltrating. We have fire, saw blades around every corner, spinning platforms that can literally make you fall. There is so much going on that it can be overwhelming, even for someone such as myself who has played this title time and time again. The level design is, well, designed to literally kill you. There are badniks galore here, most notably the newly introduced Ball Hog. These robot pigs throw explosive balls at you from atop higher areas. While not the most threatening, they can be annoying. So if you are in an area where you can ascend platforms, keep an eye out for a bouncing ball. That will tell you that they are nearby. Honestly, aside from the difficulty, there isn't really much to really say about Scrap Brain Zone. I do like the overall aesthetic and the bit of story progression this zone gives you. The first act has you outside of the factory, getting ready to infiltrate. Then the second act has you inside the factory. I really enjoy little details like this. The only new mechanics the second act introduces are the spinning gears that can send Sonic flying, and the teleporters that will beam you all around the place. I actually like these quite a bit, and they make Act 2 stick out as a joy for me to play. Even though I keep taking a hit or two from all of the hazards that are placed everywhere. Alright, so we finished Act 2. Let's get ready for Wait, what's with this music? I don't know. Something sus is going on. And the transition didn't happen either. Sonic, can you not give me that attitude right now? I was only making the observations for me and the viewers out there. Okay, we'll keep on going. Jeez. We see that Dr. Robotnik is behind a barrier of some sort, laughing menacingly. What is he up to? He presses the switch in front of him, which collapses the floor our main character is on. Unfortunately, all we can do is fall down below. Now the real Act 3 begins. And I have to say, it's a drag. First, the level is just a reskin of Labyrinth Zone, just with a gray paint job. It's not because it's a water level, It's just these aesthetics do not fit Scrap Brain at all. Why not just reuse the factory background and make it more cohesive? For the level itself, honestly, it's not too terrible, but air pockets compared to the previous water level are far more scarce. So keeping Sonic's oxygen level in check is much more important this time around. What is interesting to note is that there is no sign or capsule to open at the end. When we get through this flooded dungeon, we use the red springs to catapult upwards in a new area. Here we are at the final zone. It actually isn't a full zone at all, but I guess they named it that way to let you know that. This is it. This is the final showdown with Dr. Robotnik. There is something to take into account with this zone. There are no rings to collect here, so Sonic has to defeat him without taking a hit at all. So how does Dr. Robotnik square up with us this time? It's gotta be epic, right? Well, not really. Robotnik alternates between firing these lasers that home in on Sonic and emerging from either above or below you using these metal cylinders. It's only when he appears that you have a slight chance of hitting him. However, two always pop out, and one of them is empty, so you have to pay close attention to which one he is in. Admittedly, this boss isn't bad, but for a final showdown, this is the most epic thing we can think of? Really? Popping out from metal tubes? Lame! Also, keep in mind that you could be crushed by these tubes as well, so if you see them shake, get out of the way. The trickier part though are those lasers. After generating, they will zero in on Sonic's location. For the love of God, get in a good spot that gives you plenty of wiggle room to jump. Believe it or not, these lasers were the bane of this fight for me growing up. Getting a game over here really kicks you in the nads. So after we beat him yet again, Robotnik attempts to flee. But we ain't having that here. We punish him for animal cruelty by delivering one last blow. Sonic runs back through Green Hill to see his animal buddies all cheer and praise him. As he stops, he's giving us this odd look. Hey, everyone is safe and sound. Why do you have that look, Sonic? Then he gives us a victory pose and the credits roll. We did it, guys! We got through Sonic the Hedgehog. Wait, hang on. Robotnik is juggling the Chaos Emeralds we didn't get. The game is telling us to try again. Oh no. We messed up badly. So this is where those mystical gems from earlier come into play. First, I left out the fact that these things got unlimited power, you know. So if you want to change your ending for the better, you better get all 6 before Scrap Brain Zone. So what happens if we do get them all? What will all of that unlimited power do for us? Well, with all of them in hand now, they leave Sonic's grasp and spread out. They soon vanish, leaving flowers. We get flowers. Hey, at least Sonic isn't giving us an attitude. After the credits roll again, we actually get a different ending. Robotnik is slamming down on the end sign. Which admittedly is still pretty hilarious to this day. Sonic the Hedgehog. Even after 3 decades, I can still say it's a fun time. I wasn't the only one that thought this either. The game all throughout its lifespan sold over 24 million units, making it one of the best-selling video games of all time. It was also the game that made Sega more of a reputable name in the home console market. It was very smart that they also bundled this game with the Genesis as well. It sold the Genesis. I know it may have sounded like I was a bit harsh with some parts of the game, but I truly mean to critique it out of love. Sure, some of the levels do not hold up as well, but this was the first Sonic game after all. Sonic Team were just testing the waters. Even though the waters tested my patience. Pun intended this time. I also know that the next few games have improved, or even perfected the formula. We'll just have to wait and see how that goes. Since this game was so popular, it has been ported to pretty much anything. Sega also made a port for their previous console, the Master System, so that way 8-bit gamers can get a slice of the action too. It was also ported to their handheld, the Game Gear. Honestly, calling this a port is somewhat misleading, as there are various differences and liberties taken with this title. Maybe I'll make a future video on this specific version? Let me know if you want that down below. The game is also in various retro compilations with other classic games, with the famous being Sonic Mega Collection, released for Nintendo's GameCube and Sony's PlayStation 2. Then we have the version that was released for smartphones in 2013. Fun fact, this is my favorite version. It features widescreen support, which actually makes a huge difference in making things further off more visible. The sound was slightly tweaked a bit and sounds gorgeous. Tails and even Knuckles are now playable and come with their unique movesets from Sonic 3. They can even use the spin dash, so now younger me doesn't have an excuse to not play it as much. Meh, I'm gonna go back to Sonic 2. Why you little? It was also remastered in Sonic Origins. It's basically the same as the 2013 version, but it features Amy as a playable character this time around, which I have to admit is pretty cool. And it also has some beautifully animated cutscenes, and that ending cutscene ties into the sequels perfectly. Now, let's get into why I am so grateful for this game. This game sparked the start of a series that would, despite its flaws, become my favorite of all time. It would also start a series that would teach me that you should do what is in your heart, despite what others may think. It started a series that literally helped me get through childhood when I was either getting bullied or dealing with a parent that was always distant with me. It would also be the start of a series that shaped me into the gamer that I am today. It would also help bring people together, such as my cousins and even some of my best friends. It would also be a series that helped me cope with my autism. It was a difficult challenge growing up with it, so luckily popping Sonic in the console helped quite a lot. Lastly, it would be a series that helped inspire me to be my true self. Don't be afraid of who you are. If people don't like you for you, it's their loss, not yours. This is why I am thankful for Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh man, I almost forgot! The score sheet! Hey there! Thanks for watching my retrospective on Sonic the Hedgehog and why I'm so thankful for this game existing. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Also, let me know down in the comments below your thoughts about Sonic 1, and what other video games you would like for me to cover in the future. I really enjoyed making this video and want to try my hand at it more often. Also, share this video around to spread the love for this amazing game series. Alongside being a gamer, I am also an artist. So if you want to see that side of me, I also have my art channel, JG Art Creator. I'll even plug my newest video for you to watch as well. Be sure to follow me on social media to see what I'm up to, and to also keep an eye out for any potential updates regarding video making or anything like that. Alright, with all of that being said, in the meantime, this has been JG Entertainment System, and I'll see you folks next time.